Hi, welcome back. This is part 7. I haven't made a video in a while because I was sick. So now I can finally talk without coughing. So I'm coming back with part 7 in my ongoing series about what I'm trying to find about the beasts, the 4 beasts of Daniel 7, and in relation to the 2 beasts of Revelation. And so anyways, I've been talking about the beast, but in the last part, which was part 6, I switched gears a little bit because I wanted to bring in this concept of the bottomless pit. And if you watched part 6, you will know that I believe, or at least I'm wondering very strongly, if this opening of the bottomless pit here in Revelation 7 has to do with CERN, specifically with CERN being the birthplace of the internet, which was created in, I think it was 1989, but it was rolled out to the public in 1993. And I pointed out in the last video that we have seen a rise with like mental health problems, and we've also seen a rise in the ease of sin. Like sins that used to be hard to commit back in the day are much easier nowadays. Like, for instance, porn. You can find porn very easily. You can hack into somebody else's computer if you know how to do that. You can steal somebody's identity. You can cheat on your spouse. It's a lot easier to do these things now with the advent of the internet. That's not to say everything on the internet is bad. Okay, obviously there's some really good like Bible studies on the internet, but like we're specifically talking about those men that don't have, or mankind, so that includes women, that don't have the seal of God on their foreheads. These are the people that are putting themselves out there to be messed with, okay? And so the reason, though, I'm going over the bottomless pit is because we need to understand the bottomless pit if we're going to understand the beast. Because the usage in Revelation about the bottomless pit is here in Revelation 9, talking about the angel opening it and having these locusts come out that torment men. Specifically, they torment them for 5 months. But you could also argue that there's something else going on before those 5 months happen, which I'll talk about in a second. But then we have a second reference to the bottomless pit in Revelation 11 and 17. It's both the same reference, and this is why it's important to talk about the bottomless pit, because the beast ascends out of the bottomless pit. So the beast, it has a connection to the bottomless pit. Okay, so the first thing is the locust coming out of the bottomless pit. The second thing is the connection of the beast arising out of the bottomless pit. And the last reference in Revelation is in Revelation 20, where, praise the Lord, the bottomless pit is where Satan and all of his demonic forces will be locked up for the rest of eternity, and they will be completely destroyed in this bottomless pit. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about it. Also, remember, in my past videos, I have been talking about how this Antichrist force has been present on the planet, especially when it talks about the 4 kingdoms and that the beast is connected to the 4th kingdom. And all 4 of these prior kingdoms have been actively trying to open the bottomless pit, starting with what I believe the Tower of Babel was the first attempt, where clearly God is not like, oh no, these people are building a tall tower, I'm so scared. Like, that wasn't what was bothering God. It was the fact that these human beings were working in conjunction with enemy demonic forces that were building a quote unquote tower that was connecting humans with the spirit world. I think it has to do with opening the bottomless pit. And the second empire, I'm not exactly sure, but I pointed out in the last video that I think it has something to do with like the worldwide pyramid system, and probably in connection with maybe Atlantis. I don't know that much about that, but I just know that there was a lot of like really weird entity stuff, especially with high places in the Bible. So pyramids are manufactured high places where we know, especially like Mayan temples and even in Egypt and other pyramids around the world, that some really bad shenanigans were going on in those places. And contacting people, ancient people believed that you had to go up to a high place to contact your entity, your deity. And then the third kingdom, I believe, in connection with the bottomless pit, began in 1871 with the advent of the German, no, not that German Empire, the Roman Empire becoming a worldwide empire that was continued on with the German Empire and the Third Reich and all that stuff. I believe all those things are connected in the same way, if you know anything about the Khazarian mafia, like hijacking Christianity and hijacking world systems, starting with the Roman Empire being such a broad empire. And of course, we know the Romans borrowed a lot of their deities from the Greeks prior to them, but the Roman Empire was much stronger than the Greek Empire. So, and then, you know, the several Reichs being in connection, like literally the Third Reich believed that the Roman Empire was the First Reich. Okay, so I believe all of those Reichs, the first, second, and third, first being the Roman Empire, second being the German Empire, third being the Third Reich of the Nazis. I believe all three of those were connected into what the Bible calls the Third Kingdom, specifically in reference to opening this bottomless pit. But none of those have quite worked yet. And so now we have this fourth kingdom coming on that is connected to the beast in opening the bottomless pit. I believe that that is in conjunction with CERN, and I believe the beast is going to have some connection with CERN. Okay, all that to say, as I was kind of thinking about this and studying this, I came across this really interesting video that I'm going to play double time because he speaks rather slowly. So, but you can understand him even though I'm going to play it more quickly. But just listen to this, guys. This is really interesting because he's going to talk about another reference in Revelation in terms of the location of Satan's throne. But this is not even a reference I was even paying attention to, but just listen to what he has to say.
Today, as I was reading scripture, I came across something that blew my mind. The Bible tells us where Satan's throne is. In Revelations 2:13, it says, I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. So where was Antipas slain?
So this is really weird. Like, I never really thought about this fact that the Bible tells us that Satan's seat is located in a certain place, and it is wherever this Antipas guy was martyred. That's, I mean, the Bible says, I mean, how more plain can you get? Satan's seat is here, and Antipas was my faithful martyr who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. Like, we're always told, oh, Satan lives in like a different, plane than us because he's a spirit. But here is the Bible telling us, no, Satan has a physical place where he dwells, which is really strange. I never really had thought about this before, but just listen. So he just asked the question, where was Antipas martyred?
When you look it up, it takes us here. And when you Google where Antipas was martyred, it brings you to Geneva, Switzerland. It says the traditional account goes on to say Antipas was martyred during the reign of Nero by burning in a brazen bull-shaped altar at the Apollyon Temple in Geneva, Switzerland.
Okay. Obviously, if you've watched my prior video, if you know anything about what I've been talking about, this is pretty straightforward. Apollyon's Temple in Geneva, Switzerland. Apollyon, huh?
And that, of course, got me wondering, what exactly is in Geneva? Let's take a look. The CERN Hadron Collider, for one, where they're trying to discover and replicate the Big Bang.
Okay. Yeah, they're doing that. I think they're also doing other stuff, including the internet. But I think this is really weird because I don't know this guy from Adam, but he's seeing something completely not connected to what I'm looking at, but making the same connection. Really strange.
And of course, if I was the devil and wanted control over the world, I would be sure to bring all the world organizations to where I was, such as the United Nations. I might bring along the World Health Organization as well. And I would definitely want the World Trade Organization there. And I would definitely have Gavi there, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations. And you can't finance an empire without having the World Economic Forum in Geneva, Switzerland. And of course, I would have all the other organizations there. 33 international organizations. 33. Isn't there significance to that number?
There is a significance to 33. It's a really big number in the occult. And part of the reason is because that's the age everyone believes that Christ was crucified, when he was 33. So now that if you've never heard this before, now that you've heard this, pay attention to the news, because you see the number 33 come up all the time. That's not a mistake.
But I'll be honest with you, when I saw this today, it literally blew my mind.
Yeah, blew my mind too. So I thought that was really weird, and I wanted to share that with you. So let's come back to the Bible, because the other thing I want to do in this video is explain something that I don't think I explained very well. And actually, I got to thinking about it, and I think there's more to it than I pointed out in the last video. Okay, so let's just look here at the first 4 verses of Revelation 9 and just think about this possibly being CERN creating the internet. Okay, so we have the 5th angel opening the bottomless pit. He opens it, and there's a bunch of smoke that arises out of it, and the sun is darkened by reason of that smoke. Incidentally, the sun being darkened makes me think about Bill Gates and other climateers that are literally trying to figure out how to put stuff into our atmosphere that will darken the sun so that our planet doesn't overheat. And it's like, can you guys please stop trying to bring revelation about? Because you're doing all this stuff not for the purpose of God's people, you know? It's like, anyways, that's just beside the point. I just wanted to point that out. Anyways, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. I think this is still having to do with the internet, and the internet is given power like scorpions. In other words, if you don't want to be stung by a scorpion, don't go looking for scorpions, okay? If you don't want to have your life ruined by the internet and the shenanigans you can get up to, then don't be looking for shenanigans on the internet, okay, right? And then verse 4, it talks about that these locusts are not supposed to hurt the grass or the trees, but only the men that don't have the seal of God on their foreheads, okay? So I think verses 1 through 4 could be the advent of the internet up until right about now. And then verse 5, this is where we see that really tricky detail about 5 months. And the fact that men are going to be, or mankind, by the way, not just men, but human beings are going to be tormented for 5 months. And remember in the last video I said, 5 months if, I know the internet's been around for longer than 5 months. Okay, I'm going to modify that to say verses 1 through 4 could be 1993 up until now. And then verse 5, I believe something extra is going to come through the internet to torment for 5 months. And I think that thing is going to be connected to AI. If you don't know what AI is, I'm talking about artificial intelligence. So I think most people know what artificial intelligence is, but just in case you don't, artificial intelligence is a branch of science where, like a lot of scientists will specifically work with like robots or whatever, trying to make robots sentient, trying to make robots be able to think on their own instead of just being programmed. Okay, one of the ways that they do this is by studying the algorithmic behavior of human beings. So what does that mean? Okay, algorithms are predictable responses of a being. Okay, so like for instance, you wake up, you go to work, you come home, go to bed. Wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed. You have a routine. Most people have a routine. Most people have a certain way of saying things. People might have a little turn of phrase here and there. Maybe you say something the same way. I mean, you say the same thing, but you say it a little bit differently from someone else. So that's where the algorithms come in to study you personally. What are your propensities? What is your behavior? And then the algorithms log those behaviors and then replicate them through artificial intelligence. Okay, so like for instance, you've probably heard corporations get in trouble all the time for data harvesting. Okay, and a lot of times people that don't really know much about it, they think data harvesting means that these corporations are trying to steal your bank account. That's not what data harvesting is. Data harvesting is studying your behavior on the internet. In other words, what pages do you go to? What social media do you use? Who do you interact with on social media? When you go to an article, how long do you spend reading it? How fast do you scroll through the article? It studies all of your little tiny movements, and then after it studies that, it can log them into an algorithm and then spit it back and replicate the actions that you have created. And so then once you have logged enough of these little movements that a human being has done, and you put them into a computer system, you can then allow that artificial intelligence to start seeming to replicate its own responses, if that makes any sense. Okay, so and here's the thing, is a lot of times people too think that data harvesting has to do with marketing. So they will follow the websites that you go to, and then they will send you ads that are related to the websites that you already go to. You know what I'm saying? So like if you go to Lowe's.com all the time, they might send you an ad for Home Depot to try to get you, you know, it's like, oh, this person's into home improvement and tools and stuff, so let's send them ads on those things that they're interested in. So that's what I'm saying, is like they study you and they track you, but it's not just for marketing, is what I'm telling you here. It's also, like if you've ever gone to websites and it says, we use cookies on this website. Cookies are a form of that tracking. They track you once you accept the cookies. They track how long you're on the website and what you interact with, what ads you interact with on the website. All of that is data harvesting, and that is part of what scientists use to then log as algorithms to then plug into an artificial intelligence that can even maybe step in and try to pretend to be you, even in some situations. Like we already know, and I've brought this up before, but like Twitter got in trouble like a few months ago for being mostly bots. That's kind of a branch of this artificial intelligence. Bots are not real people, but what they are these algorithmic responses that are primed to influence and manipulate human beings to think a certain way. What does that mean? So if you post something, your point of view or something on Twitter, you might get humans interacting with their opinions on what you said, but you will also get responses from bots that have tracked your wording, and they, you know, whoever is programming these bots doesn't like the fact that you think that way, or maybe they agree, they want you to think the way that you have that you have posted. So the bots will then interact with you to try to manipulate not only you, encouraging the behavior that the programmer wants you to have, or discouraging the behavior that the programmer doesn't want you to have, and that you're not following the narrative, so that they can try to influence you, not only you, but also the other people that respond to your comment. So that's like what Twitter was getting in trouble for, is like, you can't just have like hundreds and thousands of bots responding to human beings just trying to manipulate and influence them. That's it. I mean, specifically, it wasn't fair for like the shareholders. The shareholders of Twitter are paying shares because they believe that they are dealing with a social media of just human beings. So when it came out that there were a bunch of bots on Twitter, it was like, oh, you're ripping off the shareholders because people are actually interacting with mostly AI and not even real humans. Okay, so anyways, all that to say, I believe that this torment that's going to come is going to be the next level where AI becomes so quote unquote intelligent that a demon can then slip in and then manipulate that artificial intelligence even further to the point of tormenting human beings. So, like right now, the bots would be trying to influence you, but a demon could then step into the artificial intelligence and try to torment you. Okay? So, not just influence, but taking you to the next level of torment. Here's a little example of that level of interaction that I'm talking about that a demon could definitely step into, okay? And this article is kind of old. It's from 2017. But this is just one app called With Me, but there are apps out there now that this is specifically made for people that have lost a loved one, a relative, or a really close friend that they really miss. So there are these apps now that you can download onto your phone, and you can request the app to scan through your dead loved one's social media, their email, their text messages, and the AI in the app will study the responses of your dead loved one so that, their turns of phrase, their ways of saying things, so that when you talk to the app will then replicate the method of response of your dead loved one. So you can feel like you're talking to your dead loved one, but you're really talking to the app. You're talking to the AI through the app. All right. You know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like a digital Ouija board. Okay? A Ouija board, if you know what a Ouija board is, it's that alphabet. It's like a board, and it has the alphabet on it, and then everybody puts their hands on this shuttle and it moves around. You ask it questions and it moves around, and you're supposed to be like trying to contact the dead. But really what you're doing is either it's fake and somebody else is manipulating it, or you're contacting a demon. Okay? You're not contacting a dead relative. Same thing with this app. I mean, it sounds really innocent. It sounds like, oh, this is something I miss my grandma. I'd really like to talk to her again. It would be nice to talk to her. It sounds innocent, but do you not see like how potentially contacting the dead is like literally one of the things that the devil loves you to try to do? Because he really actually just puts you in contact with a demon. Like, to me, this is just like prime demon coming through AI. Okay, this is just an example. I just wanted you to see that there is this technology out there already. That same technology that would easily bring in a demon to torment you. It's already there, guys. Okay, we just don't know exactly what this torment is, but I really firmly, I don't know if I believe it, but I really firmly think that this could be talking about AI and coming through. Also thinking about in terms of CERN and the internet, and another thing about CERN, like more modern day, is all the particle acceleration and the Hadron Collider and all that stuff, and the fact that they are studying and creating and dealing with antimatter. And if you remember, whenever I was talking about antimatter is like the exact opposite of the matter that we see now, but where the matter, like I'm sitting on a couch right now. This couch is stable. I can touch it and I don't shatter into pieces, okay? It's stable. But the antimatter of this couch would be like on fire. It would be volatile, okay? And we know too that different particle accelerators, nuclear particle hubs where they're studying these things, whenever they can create antimatter or delve into dealing with antimatter, it's so volatile that antimatter somewhere else like let's say that you have a nuclear particle facility in China, and then you have CERN, and somebody's messing with some antimatter at CERN. The messing with that antimatter will directly affect the antimatter in China. Okay, so we know that there's a volatility, we know that there's a connection, and we also know that demonic forces are volatile. And so people that have mental health issues or are giving themselves over to a sin and a temptation, they become very volatile. There's almost like when you are choosing not to follow God's path, it's almost like you're reaching into this realm of an antimatter volatility. Okay? And I say all that to say CERN is dealing with antimatter. CERN is also the birthplace of the internet. There's AI connected to just about every scientific facility, including CERN. I think all of these things could easily be connected. And then with that guy talking about Satan's seat being in Geneva, I think that all of these things are not coincidences. I think, let me see if I can find the actual verse. Yeah. So Revelation 2:13, talking about Satan's seat. I think all of these things are connected. Now, I do want to point out one more thing, and that is, if you look up where Antipas was martyred, you actually come up with two possibilities. Some people say it was Geneva, Switzerland, which is where that squiggly is. And other people say it's in this place called Pergamum that is now in Turkey. And I drew a line between the two to show that there is a good bit of distance there. But Nero was the one who put Antipas to death, and Rome is where he ruled from. I do have to say Geneva's closer than Pergamum. That doesn't prove anything, but all I can say is I do think it's not an accident that Geneva, Switzerland is one of the possible places for the seat of Satan to be. Honestly, why would all of those things be there in Switzerland? You know, the World Economic Forum and all the banks and the vaccination centers and CERN and all those things. You know, it's just really weird. Also think about the fact that Switzerland is typically the place that we all believe is neutral, right? They're not supposed to ever enter a war because they're supposed to be neutral. That's why if you want to keep your money really safe, you put it in a Swiss bank because they never go to war. So your money is safe in a Swiss bank, right? So could you not see where Satan would try to hide his throne in a place of seeming safety? You know what I'm saying? It kind of reminds me of like when people, the quote-unquote elites, or more accurately the predator class, when they are wanting to launder money, they will start a charity. You know, how many charities have been looked into and have been found to be money laundering schemes? Quite a lot, okay? It also makes me think about the United Nations and the whole thing about, oh, let's come together for good. See, like Satan always tries to hijack what seems good. Oh, Switzerland is neutral. Oh, the United Nations, we just want to all come together and be nice to each other. Oh, you know, these charities are just for the good of mankind. And literally behind every single one of them is an antichrist motivation. Especially the UN. I mean, there's no way we can come together globally and do it without God. You know, if we do it based on our own strength, that is literally bringing in the Antichrist, because that is what the Bible tells us, that he's going to set up a one world government and try to rule. You know, he's only going to have 7 years to do it. But anyways, I just thought that was interesting, and I wanted to bring your attention to that before I moved on. The next video, I'm going to look at the next reference of the bottomless pit, which is going to then bring us into talking about the beast again. So that's why I needed to lay this groundwork about the bottomless pit, because we're going to be bringing it back to the beast. So all that said, thank you for listening, and I pray that you have a blessed day, and I pray that you get in the Word and you study it. Above all, I hope that this encourages you to study the Bible, because even if I'm way off, like, I'm not the source of truth. The Bible, God is the source of truth, okay? So if you want to know truth, study your Bible. All right, so thank you for listening. I will see you, or I will talk to you soon.